Rain hammered the roof of the dimly lit parking garage as Kellan Vaughn tightened his grip on his daughter's hand and stepped protectively in front of the woman being cornered by a man twice her size. "Back off," Kellan said, voice low but sharp, like the edge of a blade. "You don't want to do this." The stranger, a drunk in a crumpled designer suit, turned to him with a sneer. "And who the hell are you? Her bodyguard?" "No," Kellan said simply. "Just a dad who doesn't tolerate this kind of garbage." Behind him, 5-year-old Callie squeezed his hand tighter, her wide eyes flicking between her dad and the man. The woman, shaking, her back against the concrete pillar, opened her mouth to speak, but Kellan held up his hand slightly, signaling her to stay behind him. The drunk took a step forward, and Kellan didn't hesitate. One quick motion, and he shoved the man away, sending him stumbling backward onto the cold cement. "Get in your car."
"Now."
The man cursed under his breath, staggered up, and finally retreated, muttering threats that no one paid attention to. When it was over, silence filled the garage. Kellan turned, kneeling so he was eye level with Callie. "You okay, bug?" She nodded, hugging his neck tight, then whispered, "Is the lady okay?" Behind them, the woman exhaled shakily. Her heels clicked on the concrete as she walked toward them. I didn't think anyone would stop." "Thank you. I don't even know what to say." Kellan stood, brushing his damp jacket off. "You don't have to say anything." "Are you all right?" "I think so. Just shaken." She looked down at Callie and gave her a soft smile. "You were very brave, too." Callie tilted her head. "Daddy says we have to protect people, even if we're not superheroes." The woman's eyes shimmered with something unspoken, and for the first time, Kellan really looked at her. She was beautiful, classy, elegant, but not in a flashy way. Her blouse was silk, her coat belted tight at the waist, her heels expensive. But her expression was soft, almost vulnerable now. "I'm Raina Fletcher," she said finally, extending her hand. "Kellan Vaughn. And this is Callie." "Hi," Callie said shyly, then leaned closer to her dad. "Can we get pancakes now?" Kellan chuckled.
"Yeah, bug.
"Let's get out of here." Raina hesitated. "Wait, can I buy you breakfast? I mean, it's the least I can do. You helped me when no one else did." Kellan almost refused. His pride always made it hard to accept anything from anyone. But then he saw the way Callie's eyes lit up at the idea of pancakes with the pretty lady. And honestly, he didn't really want to walk away from her just yet. "All right," he said. "But only if you let Callie pick the place." 20 minutes later, they were sitting in a cozy corner booth at a 24-hour diner. Callie was mid-syrup pour on her chocolate chip pancakes, while Raina drank her coffee with both hands, watching Kellan curiously. "You're a single dad?" she asked gently. "Yeah, since Callie was 2. Her mom, she wasn't ready for all this," he said, motioning to the sticky pancake mess and crayons scattered across the table. "I'm sorry," Raina said softly. "Don't be. Callie's the best thing that ever happened to me." Raina smiled at that. "You're really good with her. And earlier. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't stepped in." Kellan shrugged. No one should ever feel unsafe in a parking garage. Or anywhere. There was a long pause. Then Raina leaned in a little. "Can I ask something personal?" "Shoot." "Why were you in that garage tonight?" Kellan scratched the back of his neck. "I clean offices downtown. Night shifts mostly. Was picking up Callie from my sister's after work. That garage is connected to one of the buildings I clean." Raina blinked. "Wait. You work in the building at 5th and Main?" "Yeah. I own that building." That made him pause. He stared at her, eyebrows raised. "You're kidding." "I'm not." She laughed lightly. "Well, technically my company owns it. I'm the COO of Fletcher Grant Holdings." Kellan let out a breath. "Wow. Okay. That explains the outfit. And the car, she added with a grin. You mean the one that looks like it belongs in a Bond movie? Exactly. Callie piped up. Are you rich? Callie, Kellan warned, but Raina just laughed. I guess you could say that, she said with a wink. But honestly, tonight, I didn't feel powerful at all. I felt scared. And your daddy made me feel safe. Something shifted in the air between them. Kellan looked at her, really looked, and saw more than just the polished businesswoman. He saw someone real. Someone strong, but tired. Someone who hadn't been protected in a long time. Thank you for breakfast, he said. We don't usually do this kind of thing. I don't either, Raina said. But I'm glad I did. Over the next few weeks, Raina kept finding excuses to show up at the office building late at night. She claimed it was to check on renovations or to accidentally bump into the janitorial team. But really, she just wanted to see Kellan again. And he noticed. You know I get off at midnight, right? He said one night, stacking his mop in the supply closet. Coincidence, she said, leaning against the doorframe in a designer coat. You bringing coincidence coffee now? She handed him the cup. Hazelnut.
No cream.
Like last time. He took it, a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. You don't have to keep doing this. I want to. He stared at her for a beat. Why? Because you're different, she said simply. You're not trying to impress me. You don't care that I drive a car worth more than most houses. You're just you. Kellan looked down. I don't have anything fancy to offer someone like you. You offered me safety, Raina said. That's more valuable than anything I've ever bought. And in that moment, even with the scent of floor cleaner in the air and the buzz of fluorescent lights above them, Kellan reached out and brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. She didn't pull away. I should go, she whispered. Yeah, he said. Probably. But neither of them moved. Eventually, she stepped back, her voice soft. Same time tomorrow? He nodded. I'll bring the coffee. The first time Kellan saw Raina outside of the building, it was accidental, or at least, that's what he told himself. He'd taken Callie to the botanical garden on her Sunday off, promising her a picnic and a butterfly exhibit. She was mid-chase, laughing and running after a monarch, when he heard a voice just behind him. I didn't peg you for a flower guy. Kellan turned, startled. Raina stood beneath the shade of a magnolia tree, her hair pulled back loosely, sunglasses perched on her head, and a canvas tote bag slung over her shoulder. She wore jeans and a tank top, not a single trace of her usual corporate armor. For a moment, he didn't speak. He was too busy trying to reconcile this version of her with the one who usually walked out of a black luxury car and into a polished marble lobby. You following me now? He said. Actually, I volunteer here, she replied, lifting a laminated badge from her bag. Weekend literacy program in the children's garden. He blinked. Didn't expect that.
Why?
Because I wear heels during the week, she teased. I know how to read to kids, Vaughn. Callie came bounding over, her cheeks flushed. Miss Raina. Raina kneeled down. Hey, butterfly hunter. Catch anything good? Callie held up a small paper booklet stamped with a butterfly sticker. We're making a journal. Daddy says I can draw in it after lunch. I'd love to see it later, Raina said, standing again. If you don't mind some company, I have a break soon. Kellan hesitated. You're really volunteering here? Every other Sunday, she said. I started after my dad died last year. He used to bring me here when I was little. Thought it was time I gave something back. There was no pretense in her voice, just quiet honesty. And something about the way she looked at the garden, not just admiring it, but understanding its quiet made him nod. All right, he said. But don't expect fancy picnic food. We've got peanut butter sandwiches and juice boxes. Perfect, she grinned. I'll bring the cookies. They found a shaded spot near the rose trellis. Callie spread out the blanket with all the seriousness of a maitre d'. then carefully arranged crackers and fruit while Kellan poured juice into plastic cups. Raina passed around napkins and settled beside them with practiced ease, as though she'd always belonged there. "You ever think about slowing down?" Kellan asked, watching her pull her shoes off and dig her toes into the grass. "Every day," she admitted. "But then I remember my calendar's booked out 3 months, and my board likes calling emergency meetings on weekends." "Sounds exhausting." "It is. But it's also mine. I built it. So I can't walk away from it." He nodded slowly. "I get that." "Do you?" she asked, tilting her head. He glanced at Callie, who was humming to herself, coloring a butterfly in with a purple crayon. "When I got custody, everyone told me I'd have to give up my life, that I'd never have time for anything else. They were right, but I wouldn't trade it. You gave up a lot. I gained more." Raina looked at him for a long moment. "You ever want more than this?" Kellan shrugged. "Not sure I get to want things like that." "What does that mean?" "Means I don't exactly have the luxury of dreaming big. I make just enough to keep the lights on and my kid in school. That's the reality." Raina's voice softened. "But if you could..." His answer came without hesitation. "I'd open my own cleaning company. Hire people like me. Pay them what they're worth. Give them benefits. Security." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You ever tell anyone that?" "No point. Not like I've got investors lined up." She didn't reply right away. Instead, she picked up a cookie and broke it in half before offering him a piece. "You ever think maybe someone's waiting to hear it?" Later that evening, after Raina had gone back to her car and Callie had fallen asleep in the back seat, Kellan sat in the driver's seat staring at the steering wheel. She'd planted something in his chest, something dangerous. Hope. He showed up to work Monday night expecting the usual routine: disinfectant, buckets, the low hum of vacuuming. But 3 hours into his shift, the security guard handed him a sealed envelope with his name scrawled across the front. Inside was a handwritten note. "Don't panic. I didn't fire you. Check the conference room on the 28th floor. R." Kellan blinked at the page, then took the elevator up, confused and more than a little wary. The top floor was usually locked after normal business hours. But the door clicked open with a soft buzz, and warm light spilled out. The conference table had been cleared. In its place, a single folder sat in the center with a small card beside it. He opened the folder. Inside were papers, business registration forms, licensing information, a drafted business plan. All filled out in his name. At the bottom of the stack was a check. It was blank, but signed. The card read simply, "You said you needed someone to believe in you. I do. R." He stood there for a long time, chest tight, hands clenched around the edges of the folder. He didn't know what stunned him more, the gesture itself or the fact that she'd remembered every detail he'd told her.
And acted on it.
The elevator opened behind him. "I thought you'd yell," Raina said, stepping into the room with her hands behind her back. "I'm still deciding," he said, turning to face her. "You told me not to keep showing up with coffee. So, I brought you a company instead." "Raina, this is insane."
No.
"It's investment. The kind that changes lives. You said you wanted to build something. I'm just clearing the road. You barely know me." "I know enough." He stared at her, jaw tight. "Why me?" "Because you're the kind of man who puts himself between a stranger and danger without thinking twice. Because you raise your little girl with more love than most people get in a lifetime. Because you've never once asked me for anything."
She paused.
"And maybe because I'm tired of people who only take." Kellan exhaled, hard. "This isn't how things work. People like you don't fall for people like you," she cut in. "Too late." The room went still. "You shouldn't, but I did," she said softly. "And I'm not sorry." He looked at her, really looked, and saw the truth of it in her eyes. No games. No angles. Just a woman standing in front of a man, offering him more than he ever thought he could have. He swallowed hard. What if I mess it up? Then we figure it out. Together. He stepped forward. One step. Then another. And when he kissed her, it wasn't fireworks or fanfare, it was quiet.
Steady.
Like roots finally taking hold in good soil. When they pulled apart, she rested her forehead against his. Still mad. Terrified, he whispered. Me too, she breathed. But I think that's how we know it matters. The penthouse was nothing like he expected. Kellan stood just inside the glass doors, Callie's hand in his, trying not to look like he'd stepped into a dream he wasn't supposed to touch. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city skyline, the lights below twinkling like stars scattered across black velvet. A grand piano stood near the corner, untouched but gleaming, and a low fire crackled in a modern marble hearth. Callie tugged his sleeve, eyes wide. Daddy, is this where the princesses live? Before he could answer, Raina appeared from the hallway, barefoot and carrying two fluffy robes folded over one arm. Her hair was damp, twisted up with a clip, and she wore a soft gray lounge set that somehow made her look even more out of reach. I thought you two might want to use the spa tub, she said, offering the robes. There's bubble stuff. And a shark toy. I asked someone. Kellan blinked. You asked someone for a toy shark? I have staff, Vaughn. They're useful. He took the robes, still trying to catch up. You sure we're not intruding? Raina stepped closer, brushing a hand over Callie's curls. You're not guests tonight. You're home. Kellan didn't know how to respond to that. So he didn't. He just looked down at Callie. You want a bath with a shark? She nodded with a grin. Can we make the bubbles huge? Only if you promise not to flood the city, he said, leading her down the hall. By the time he returned, Callie was happily tucked into a guest room with a picture book, and Raina was waiting for him on the terrace, a pair of wine glasses resting on the stone ledge. The night wind played with her hair as she leaned on the railing, looking out over the city like it belonged to her. Because it did. You didn't have to do all this, he said, stepping beside her. I wanted to, she replied, not turning. You've let me into your world. Let me offer you a glimpse of mine. He accepted the glass, watching her carefully. So this is how the other half lives? This is how I live, she said. But it's not the full picture. Kellan took a sip. Then show me. She turned fully to him now. My mother left when I was 13. Said she didn't marry my father to be invisible. I didn't see her again until I was 22, and by then she only came back to ask for money. My father was everything. When he died, I poured myself into the company. I didn't know what else to do. That's why you don't slow down, he said. Because when I stop, I feel it all, she admitted. The fear, the loneliness, the guilt of having everything and still feeling alone. Kellan set his glass down. You're not alone anymore. She looked at him, eyes vulnerable for the first time since he'd met her. You say that like it's that simple. It is. For me. I don't know what this is, or where it's going. But I know what it feels like when you walk into a room. And I'm not going to pretend that doesn't matter. Raina stepped forward, her voice barely audible. I'm scared this won't last. Then be scared, he said. We'll figure it out anyway. She kissed him, then not tentative, not testing, but full and certain, as if she'd made a decision and wasn't turning back. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. There's a charity gala next week, she murmured.
I'm hosting.
Come with me. Kellan pulled back slightly, brows raised. You want me to wear a tux and mingle with people who probably think I polish their floors?
No, she said.
I want you to stand beside me. Not behind me. Not beneath me. Beside me. He exhaled slowly. I don't have a tux. I'll take care of it. And Callie? She'll be with my goddaughter. She's 5 and has a tiara collection. They'll get along. Kellan hesitated, then nodded. All right. One night. Try not to fall in love with me on the dance floor, she teased, walking past him. Too late, he muttered under his breath. The night of the gala arrived faster than he expected. The tailor Raina sent had arrived with a tuxedo folded in a velvet-lined case, along with shoes that looked like they belonged in a museum. Kellan stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his cufflinks, feeling like an actor in someone else's life. Callie peeked around the bathroom door. Daddy, you look like the man in the movie, who kisses the lady in the rain. That's oddly specific, he said, smoothing his lapel. You ready to go with Miss Jess? She nodded, hugging her stuffed bunny tight. Will you be back before breakfast? Of course. And if you wake up early, you can have cereal in her kitchen. Just don't pour the milk yourself. Jess arrived 5 minutes later, a bright-eyed woman who greeted Callie like an old friend and promised to braid her hair while they watched cartoons. Kellan kissed his daughter goodbye, then descended to the waiting car. Raina was already inside. She wore a deep sapphire gown that caught the light every time she moved, her hair swept up in soft waves, a single diamond pendant resting against her collarbone. When he slid into the seat beside her, she looked up and smiled, not the polished smile she saved for boardrooms, but something real. You clean up dangerously well, she said. You look. I don't even have the words. The gala was held in the grand ballroom of a historic hotel, all crystal chandeliers and gold trim, waiters gliding between tables with trays of champagne. Kellan stayed close to Raina's side, letting her guide the conversations with practiced ease. People nodded politely, some with vague recognition, others with confusion, trying to place the man beside her. It wasn't until the speeches began that the tide shifted. Raina took the stage, her voice confident and clear as she spoke about education, opportunity, and rebuilding communities. Kellan watched her, heart pounding, knowing that every word came from a place of truth. And this year, she continued, eyes scanning the crowd, our company is proud to fund a new initiative, a startup incubator for small businesses in underserved neighborhoods. Inspired by someone who reminded me that hard work and heart are where true success begins. She paused, then looked directly at Kellan. In honor of that, we're naming the first grant after him. A screen behind her lit up with bold letters, the Vaughn Initiative. The room erupted in applause, but Kellan couldn't move. She'd just given him the one thing no one ever had belief, made public.
Permanent.
Afterward, she found him near the terrace, glass of untouched champagne in his hand. You didn't know, she said softly. No, his voice was hoarse. Why would you do that? Because you've spent your life making everyone else feel safe. It's time someone did it for you. He stared at her, overwhelmed. You didn't have to put my name on it. I wanted to, she said. So no one forgets where it started. He set his glass down and pulled her into his arms, not caring who saw. You're not getting rid of me now, he whispered. I wasn't trying to. He kissed her then, as the city glittered behind them and the night moved around them like a secret kept safe. It was the second week after the gala, when Kellan unlocked the door to his new office for the first time. The place was modest 3 rooms, freshly painted walls, an open space lined with industrial shelving, but it was his. The nameplate on the door read Vaughn Solutions, and the sun beamed through the windows like it knew something had changed. He stepped inside, holding the key tight in his hand like it might disappear if he let go. Callie ran ahead, her sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. Can I pick which desk is yours? She asked, twirling in the middle of the empty space. I kind of already have one, he said, smiling. But you can pick which one gets the candy drawer. Raina appeared behind them, setting a box of file folders on the counter. I brought labels, she said, holding up a sheet. And color-coded tabs. Don't look at me like that, I like order. You don't have to keep showing up to help, he said. She glanced around. I'm not helping. I'm investing. There's a difference. Callie tugged on her sleeve. Miss Raina, can we put a beanbag chair in the corner? For reading. Raina crouched down to her level. Only if I get to sit in it too. They spent the afternoon organizing, building furniture, and unboxing supplies. Kellan assembled shelves while Raina worked beside him, her hair tied back messily, with a pencil stuck through the bun. Callie made a fort out of empty boxes and insisted on giving a tour of her office to anyone who passed by the door. By late evening, the space felt lived in, paper stacked, chairs slightly askew, a framed photo of Kellan and Callie on the desk. Raina stood near the window, arms crossed, watching him as he adjusted the last shelf. You know, she said, you're ridiculously hard to surprise.
He turned.
I don't like surprises. You like this one. She reached into her bag and handed him a manila envelope. What's this? Your first client. A small restaurant group expanding across the city. They need a full-service cleaning contract for all their locations. I told them you'd handle it personally. He opened the envelope, scanning the paperwork, his brow furrowing. This is over 6 figures a year. They're growing fast. I thought you might want to grow with them. He set the folder down carefully. You're doing it again. Doing what? Handing me things I didn't ask for. I'm not handing you anything. I'm giving you leverage. You've built the foundation. I'm just making sure people see it. He stepped toward her slowly, his voice low. Why me, Raina? You could have picked anyone. Someone in your circle. Someone who wouldn't come with a 5-year-old and a second-hand truck. I didn't want anyone in my circle, she said. I wanted someone who didn't see me as a stepping stone. Someone who wasn't afraid to tell me when I'm being too much. Someone who makes me feel like I'm not just a name on a building.
He didn't reply.
He just pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. Do you ever regret it? He asked. Any of it? Not for a second. They stood like that for a while, the noise of the city humming beyond the glass. Then Callie burst in from the hallway, holding a bouquet of dandelions in both hands. I found flowers in the sidewalk cracks, she announced proudly. They're for the boss lady. Raina took them with a soft laugh. They're perfect. Thank you. Kellan watched them, something pulling tight in his chest. It wasn't nerves. It wasn't fear. It was the weight of knowing what he had now. What he stood to lose if he ever let himself fall back into the silence he'd lived in for years. Later that night, after Callie was asleep in her room at Raina's place, her stuffed bunny clutched in one arm, her cheeks flushed from excitement, Kellan lingered on the balcony, the city stretching wide beneath them. Raina joined him, barefoot again, a glass of water in her hand. You're quiet, she said. Just thinking. Dangerous. He looked at her. You know this isn't real, right? Normal guys don't end up in penthouses with women like you. She leaned against the railing beside him. Stop calling yourself normal. You're anything but. I just mean. This isn't where I thought I'd end up. Neither did I. But maybe that's the point. He turned toward her. What happens next, Raina? When my company isn't shiny and new anymore. When I make mistakes. When you realize I'm still just trying to figure it all out. I stay, she said simply. Because I'm not with you for the shine. I'm here because you're the first person who sees me for more than what I do. She took his hand. And I think it's time we stop asking what happens next. Maybe we just start living it. He looked down at their hands, then back at her. I never thought I'd find this. You didn't find it, she said. You built it. Every part of it. A few weeks later, Kellan stood in the mirror adjusting his tie for the second time in an hour. He hadn't worn a suit since the gala, but today wasn't about appearances, it was about something permanent. Raina appeared in the doorway, wearing a dress the color of soft ivory, her hair brushed back in simple waves. She wasn't wearing jewelry except for the ring he'd given her 2 days earlier, an antique band he'd found at a local shop, one he'd spent weeks saving for quietly. You ready? She asked. He nodded. Are you? I've been ready since you handed me that first cup of coffee and told me to stop interrupting your mopping. They laughed, and she stepped forward, brushing invisible lint off his shoulder. I told the officiant to keep it short. Callie's giving us 5 minutes before she sings something she made up. I wouldn't have it any other way. The ceremony was held on the rooftop of his new office building, the same one she'd helped him lease, the same one he now ran with a growing team of employees who called him boss with pride. The sun was setting behind them, casting light across the skyline. Friends, family, and a few wide-eyed clients filled the seats. Callie stood beside them in a flower crown, holding the rings in a velvet box. When the vows were done and the cheers rang out, Kellan didn't think about how far he'd come or how different his life looked now. He only thought about the woman in front of him, the daughter beside him, and the fact that somehow, against all odds, a moment in a parking garage had rewritten every chapter of his life. As they walked down the aisle together, hand in hand, the city buzzing beneath them, Raina leaned in close and whispered in his ear, "Told you not all surprises are bad." And for the first time in years, Kellan Vaughn didn't feel like he was surviving. He felt like he'd won. A soft autumn breeze rustled the trees outside as Raina adjusted the framed blueprint on the office wall. She stepped back, eyeing the placement, then turned toward the sound of footsteps behind her. "There's a man in the lobby asking for you," said Marisol, her new assistant. "He doesn't have an appointment, but he says he's an investor from London." Raina raised an eyebrow. "Did he give a name?"
No.
"Just said he needed 10 minutes. She glanced at the clock on the wall. Kellan was supposed to swing by soon to finalize the community outreach schedule for the Vaughn Initiative's next round of grant recipients. But curiosity tugged at her. "I'll take him in the small conference room. Give me 5 minutes, then come in with a fake phone call if he's wasting my time." Marisol grinned. "Got it." The man waiting had silver hair, a pressed navy suit, and a sharpness to his smile that made Raina instantly alert. She didn't offer a handshake as she entered. "You've got 5 minutes," she said, sitting across from him. He leaned back in the chair. "You're sharp, just like your father." Her posture stiffened. "You knew my father?" "We sat on several boards together. I was overseas most of the time, but I saw enough to know you've inherited more than just his title." "What do you want?" "I heard about your new partnership. The company you're backing. Vaughn Solutions." "What about it?" "I'd like to buy it." The air thickened. Raina blinked once, slowly. "Excuse me? I'm prepared to offer a full acquisition, with a generous payout for both you and the owner. Your name stays on the board. He gets a consulting role. It's a win for everyone." She stared at him, unmoving. "You think I built this to sell it? I think you're smart enough to know when opportunity knocks. And this is the kind of offer that doesn't come twice." She stood. "You're right. It doesn't. Because I'm saying no now, and I'll say the same thing every time you ask." He chuckled, unfazed. "Sentimental loyalty. It's sweet. But it won't grow your portfolio. I'm not interested in growing numbers. I'm interested in building legacy. You want to buy something, go find a company that was built for profit. This one was built for purpose." He stood slowly, buttoning his jacket. "You'll regret that. One day." "I doubt it," Raina said, nodding toward the door. "Now kindly get out of my building." The door clicked shut behind him just as Kellan stepped off the elevator, a stack of folders in one hand and a paper coffee cup in the other. "Everything okay?" he asked, noting her expression. "Just a reminder of who we're not doing this for." He handed her the cup. "Hazelnut. 2 sugars. You looked like you needed it." She took it with a grateful nod. "I love you." He paused, then tilted his head. "That's new." "I know," she said, stepping closer. "But I don't want to wait anymore. I love you, Kellan. I love the way you see the world. I love the way you show up for people without expecting anything back. I love the way you love me." He set the folders down and pulled her into his arms. "I love you too," he said against her hair. "And I'm not going anywhere." That night, After putting Callie to bed in her room at their new home, a modest house tucked on a quiet street with a garden, she insisted on planting herself. Raina and Kellan sat on the back porch, wrapped in a blanket, their hands intertwined. She asked today if she could call me something else, Raina said softly. He turned to her. What did she say? She asked if I'd be okay with Mom. Just sometimes. If it didn't hurt. Kellan's throat tightened. And what did you say? I said I'd be honored. He kissed her temple, holding her tighter. The stars above blinked slowly, like they were listening. Things feel different now, she said after a pause. Not just the job. Everything. Like I'm finally living instead of performing. I've felt that way since the night you offered me pancakes. She laughed quietly. You saved me that night. You saved me right back. The next morning, they met with the city council to finalize the new youth mentorship program, the first official partnership between Vaughn Solutions and Fletcher Grant. Raina watched Kellan speak with the mayor, calm and confident, in a suit he'd chosen himself. No one questioned his seat at the table anymore. Afterward, they walked through the newly renovated community center, stopping at the mural Callie had helped paint, a swirl of color with a giant heart in the center. She said it's about choosing love, Kellan said, reading the plaque. She's wiser than both of us. He turned to her. So, what's next? Raina smiled. We build.
We grow.
We give back. And when things get hard, we hold each other tighter. He brushed a strand of hair from her cheek. Marry me again. She blinked. What? No suits. No rooftop. Just you, me, Callie, and maybe a backyard with string lights. Let's do it again. This time not for the world. Just for us. She nodded, eyes glassy.
Yes.
1,000 times yes. That weekend, they gathered in their backyard, surrounded by neighbors, friends, and the staff of both companies. Callie wore a flower crown again, this time of her own design. Raina wore a simple white dress with bare feet, and Kellan stood barefoot beside her, sleeves rolled up, his hand wrapped around hers. The vows were different this time, shorter, rawer, more honest. You make me feel like I can breathe, he said. And I never knew how much I needed that. You make me feel seen, she replied. And I never want to forget what that feels like. They kissed under the lights, to the sound of laughter and clapping, and when Callie shouted for cake, everyone cheered louder. As the night wound down, Raina stood at the edge of the porch, watching Kellan spin Callie around in the grass, both of them barefoot and laughing. Marisol stepped up beside her with a glass of lemonade. You did it, she said. No, Raina replied. We did it. Together. Marisol nudged her. Still. Not many people get everything they want. I didn't want everything, Raina said. I just wanted the right things. And that was exactly what she had. Love that didn't ask her to shrink. A man who stood beside her, never behind. A daughter she hadn't given birth to but loved with every fiber of her being. And a life that finally felt like hers. As the music drifted through the air and the stars blinked open again, Raina crossed the lawn barefoot and joined the dance. Kellan pulled her in without a word, arms wrapping around her waist as she leaned into his chest. They didn't need music. They had each other. And there was nothing better than that.